my name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We're here at the world-famous Irish pub in Atlantic City every Sunday night and brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon, excited to welcome our weekly guest, a fellow meteorologist and my predecessor and colleague. I was the first meteorologist at the Press of Atlantic City, and Joe is the second. Joe Martucci, Press of Atlantic City.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. So, my first time meeting you, and I told you on the phone, we were talking before, everyone at the press said I had big shoes to fill figuratively and literally.
I think it's just literally.
So
just
my chair might be up a little bit. Maybe they did this on purpose, so we actually look the same height here. But no, it's very good being here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here, too. Again, you guys, you can come down to the Irish pub. Of course, a lot of people watching the Eagles game right now at the pub. It's pretty quiet, although they are making a comeback. You can join the conversation live on Facebook as well. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been at the press for a little over a year, right? About since last September, really. So a little over 12 months. I'm from New Jersey. I'm not from South Jersey. I try to keep that quiet, but I'm not from South Jersey. I'm from.
But you're a South Jerseyan now.
That's right, South Jerseyan now. Trying to get around as much as I can, but I'm from a town called Union, New Jersey, about 100 exits north of where we are here. Went to college at Rutgers University, got my degree in meteorology. 50,000 people at the university, but I graduated with 13 people, so you know how it goes. Yep. So I was there, and then first job after Rutgers, I worked at a TV station, a local TV station called WM as in Mountain, BC. If you say it fast, you think it's WMBC. But I was there. I worked as a reporter, but not as a meteorologist. So I was there for a little while. And then I just said, I really wanted to do weather, whatever. So I ended up working at a company called WeatherWorks, which is in Hackettstown, New Jersey, on the other corner of the state from here. I was there for close to 4 years. And then when this opportunity came up to be at the press, I didn't hesitate. Sent my resume out as I was just about to leave to go to Italy for the first time ever. Interviewed in my hotel room in Rome. Came back, next day interviewed, just drove down jet lag and all, came down here, interviewed again, got the job, and the rest is history.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to know when you realized you wanted to pursue a career in weather, or when you became interested in meteorology.
Yeah, so, and Dan could probably attest this, he knows many people, it's something I've wanted to do my whole life. And I always tell people when I'm doing talks, if you ask, my graduating class graduated at 13. I would say about 7 or 8 of them wanted to do it since before middle school. Did you feel the same way?
I did. Was it a specific storm, or was it just kind of a fascination with weather?
It was just a fascination. One of the first memories I had was I was in the basement of my grandparents' house, and Al Roker was on TV, or we were talking about Al Roker, and I don't remember exactly that, but one of my family members said, look, that can be you someday. And my first thought at 4 or 5 years old, that could be me. So I must have had the interest even before that, but I don't remember that part. So one of the first memories I had in my life was being a meteorologist. So no really specific storm. I mean, one that stuck out that was pretty formative to me was the Boxing Day blizzard, 2010, where in Union we got 28 inches of snow, and a couple places got at or around 30, and that was crazy to be in. So that was probably my highlight moment just in my formative years. And then, of course, we've been no stranger to wild weather over the past couple of years.
And that Boxing Day storm, I remember, because it was day after Christmas, Boxing Day, December 26th. 3 days before Christmas, we were not getting any snow. I just remember based on, I wasn't forecasting any snow, so it was tough to get that word out with the holidays there. Everyone checked out of weather. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, for me, it was Hurricane Gloria.
Okay,
I'm dating myself, a little older than you guys.
I wasn't born yet for that.
9 years old for that, but 1985.
Okay.
That just inspired me to become a meteorologist. How do you like the press? I mean, and I guess having forecasted, I know for WeatherWorks, which is a private forecasting company, you forecasted for a large area.
We did.
You forecasted for North Jersey when you were up in Rutgers,
Yep.
and then you grew up there. How is South Jersey different, and how do you like working for the press?
So I'll start off with last part, how I like working for the press. I really enjoy it. I mean, to be able to go out and be a part of the community was something I've always wanted to do. I'm doing a thing now every week or about every week or so where I'm trying to visit every town that we cover at the press. On the road with Joe is what we're calling it, about stop number 45 of 63.
Okay.
Throughout the show. It's been really cool to be part of the community. And also, I just enjoy getting a lot of flexibility to kind of write stories that I'm interested in, to chart my own path. I think I really appreciate that. As far as, forecasting for this corner of the state, the one thing I noticed, and, so WeatherWorks, we covered everywhere from coastal New Hampshire down to Virginia out to Chicago.
Right.
This is one area, and I will say, just being in this corner of the state, I feel like weather matters more down here. I think there's the tourism factor. You want good weather during, want good weather during the summer, obviously, and even as we go into like a weekend like this,
right.
You want to at least be warm. Not the greatest on Saturday, but you just want it to be warm, people to drive out. But I think it's also the coastal flooding, which I know we're going to talk more about, is always something when I'm doing talks people like to talk about the much. Speaking to the weather part specifically of it, those snowstorms are tricky, Dan.
Yeah.
You're talking in Cape May County, you got Cape May, which could get 0 or 1 inches of snow. You go up to parts of Upper Township, it's like the rest of the state where they can get 8 or 9 inches. Seeing that gradient. We had a couple of storms this year where you had that gradient. It's a nice challenge. The other thing I noticed too is that it's really warm at night. Especially during the fall down here. It's not, we didn't get that crisp fall air yet. And I noticed that last year, and I'm a heat guy, so I like it. But that's one of the subtle changes I've seen being down here as opposed to being in the northern parts.
Yeah, when you're surrounded by water on 3 sides,
exactly.
or 2 sides, yeah. And the water's still, 71,
70,
72?
Yeah, low 70s. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure some of those back bays are even warmer than that still.
Nope. It hasn't been too fall-like just yet. We got to get that.
Not just
yet.
yet.
I hope we get it
next
soon.
week. I think
Fall
next week.
is my favorite season. But do you think you ever have a typical work week, or does it change?
Well,
do anything routinely?
Yeah, so the routine is I'm doing a couple forecast videos a day, doing 2. Actually, going to start doing 3 tomorrow.
Okay.
So, new news for everybody. But do that. I'm writing every day for the press, similar to
you're
Dan.
making me look bad. I did 1 a day.
Oh, no, you did a couple. I saw you. You had the weekend forecast. I know.
I did.
No.
We might have a competition here between meteorologists.
No competition. No competition. All meteorologists are very friendly. We try to be very friendly. There's not many of us, so we try to stay in the same boat.
That's right.
I'm sensing some.
No, we're good. But is every week the same? No. The weather. Just going into it, every week is something different. Whether it's like, for example, this week, warm start to the week, maybe remnant tropical system at the end of the week, cooler next week. So you're always trying to be on your toes. You're always on your toes. But that's what makes it exciting. It's something. It's the same stuff. You're still forecasting every day, still doing the same videos, but it's different situations.
Right.
Now, how do you find tidal flooding forecasting? Because I moved here from Vermont, and I was my meteorological career is New England and the Great Lakes. In New England, we didn't really have a whole lot of tidal flooding in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. Here, as you mentioned, it's something everyone wants to know about, and it's something I knew very little about forecasting. As you do it more, you become more familiar with it. So how is your kind of adjusting to South Jersey tidal flooding forecasting?
I will say I kind of got to blow cushion a little bit, working at WeatherWorks where we did handle coastal areas and we were involved with that. But, when you're actually living and breathing in this corner state, it's a little different. And, I think the one thing I had to get used to was how long these back bays can continue to flood. I remember in March where, it was... I can't remember how many cycles we had, but it was almost every day for a period of time.
I want to say it was like 21 straight high tide cycles. It had to have been a record. Not that we keep records of that, but you're right.
Right, but it was something we kept up. And, and this was the kind of welcome to this corner of state. Looked like to me, okay, we were going to start draining out, but I was getting people in Absecon or, in Brigantine saying, we're still flooding in this part. I'm like, crazy, what are you talking about? But you learn. So I quickly learned. I understand that these back bays take a long time to drain out, and I'm also always just trying to learn something new every day. But I feel like I had a pretty good familiarity to what the setup would be for coastal flooding. And just to give you an example, this past couple of months, I knew that just by talking to National Weather Service, which is a great resource. Past couple of new moons were going to be extremely high for that, and that helped me as we went in. And oftentimes I tried to beat out what the tidal gauge forecasts were saying just by knowing that information.
And just a quick follow-up question to that: do you think it's tough to convey it accurately to people? Like, do you say, "Hey, we'll be 6.5 above mean low water"? Do people know what that means? Do you say moderate? I mean, low moderate. Like, how do you convey it accurately? Because every island floods differently,
Yep.
and not every bay floods the same. So, and it's complex. I always thought it was one of the most challenging parts of the job, trying to tell people, their number one question is, should I move my car?
Right.
I mean, that's not something you can answer on a street by street basis because you don't know every island. But has that been a challenge for you, or how have you adjusted to that?
So the way and to answer your question, we get people at the press who ask me, is today a car moving day? Molly, if you're listening, it might be as we go tomorrow night and Tuesday morning. But I feel like generally people know what minor flood stage, or if I say minor nuisance, people understand that. It's really when you get above that into the moderate and major, I think, a little bit of a challenge. What I try to do, and Jim Emberwine, who I know was your first guest, I believe, for this.
He was. I think he is, he's always been my meteorological mentor.
Yeah.
I think he is Mr. South Jersey.
Yeah, he really is Mr. South Jersey. I was talking to him on Friday for a while, but I know he did some research into saying, okay, minor flood stage, these streets flood, moderate flood stage, these streets flood. So I always try to say as many streets and as many towns as I can. Usually my typical minor flooding wording is your first block or two of bayside roadways will have water on them. Not everywhere, but in those susceptible locations, and I'll name off a couple of them. So I try to give the streets, White Horse Pike, Black Horse Pike, floods very often.
Right.
Now, I did see on your Facebook a lot of times you're posting coastal advisory flood warnings, right? Or
coastal flood advisories, coastal flood warnings, whatever it may be.
Yeah, well, how does that advisory differ from like a flood watch or a flood warning, and which is the most common?
Yeah, so down here, coastal flood advisory, I would say, is the most common. If I'm correct, maybe Dan can back me up, I think it has to be 0.3 feet over minor flood state. I think that what gets you to a coastal flood advisory. Coastal flood warning, when you start getting into that moderate and major flood state.
Okay.
Meanwhile, flood warning, there's different kinds of flood warning. So there's a flood watch, flood warning. That's more of a long duration, your 2-inch, 3-inch amounts over a long period of time. Those steady soaker kind of days. That's where you get those flood watches and warning. Flash flood watch, flash flood warning. It's tough. It's not like, if you have all of Atlantic County under a flash flood watch, it doesn't mean that everywhere in Atlantic County is going to flood. It's just there's the opportunity. It's usually these quick hitting thunderstorms. They dump a quick 2 to 3 inches of rain. You start get flooding. So it's the way I see it. Flash flood watch warning. It's more of those hit or miss kind of thunderstorms. That's typically the situation you're going to get them in. Flood watch, flood warning. I like to say we usually have a little more notice on how that's going to play out, because you typically know that you're going to get that longer, bigger duration kind of system. You can get them in nor'easters. You get a flood watch. Coastal flood watch and warning is just specifically limited to the coast.
Now we are entering almost the transition season. We're at the second half of hurricane season, the very start of nor'easter season. Still, hopefully, a few months away from snowstorm season. But how does your job change with that? With the changing of the seasons, because you mentioned earlier we're looking at what will likely be Hurricane Michael, and we'll be dealing with some leftovers of that later in the week. We've had some really bad October nor'easters before. We've had Sandy in October, so it's kind of the time of year where really anything can happen.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of like to think of the fall as maybe slightly quieter season. Granted, we don't get any tropical systems. Typically, that calm before the proverbial storm of winter. We're looking at winter forecast. What does the winter bring? And you can start to draw clues now, really, when we are in October. Trying to also kind of gauge some longer-term plans. Okay, if we get a blizzard, what worked last winter? In terms of our coverage with the press, what can we do differently? What can we do better? What was good, and what can we keep?
Now, you meant another follow-up to that is, I know with WeatherWorks, they did a lot of these long-term winter forecasts. Do you dabble in that at all with the press? And if so, or even if you don't, what is the skinny on the upcoming winter in Joe Martucci's eyes? Like, what do you look ahead into the seasonal forecast? And is it going to be snowy, cold, stormy? Do you have any some insight into that?
Yeah, I'm always paying attention to long-term trends. Specifically at WeatherWorks, I didn't do long-term forecasting. I did I was doing sales, social media, radio, general forecasting.
Okay.
I stayed out of the long range. But generally, things you want to look for, you want to look for Siberian snowpack in October. That can give you a clue to how the winter is going to portray. El Nino, La Nina, how that will portray into the winter. Gathering from what I see, looks to be an active winter, not necessarily a snowier winter, but an active winter. And if we get those mixing scenarios, more of those mixing, or maybe we're on the warm side and it's mostly rain.
I do see I agree though. From what I see, it's stormy, so a lot of nor'easters, a lot of coastal storms, and perhaps a lot of tidal flooding. Whether that means all minor or some moderates and majors, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I will say, kind of going back to the question you were saying about coastal flooding. I mean, really, when you get to these nor'easters, it's almost more about the coastal flooding than the snow. The snow is always going to get the hype, for lack of a better word, but it's really the coastal flooding that's really the longer impacts, especially when, like in March. You had North Wildwood, a place that's always susceptible to beach erosion, really eroded. You had the East Point Lighthouse over in Cumberland County. I believe the state had to buy some land so they can repatch that area up. So those are the bigger impacts. The snow will melt, but if you get beach erosion, that doesn't come back. You have to do that on a man-made basis. A lot of times, depending on where you are.
In your tour of South Jersey, I'm not going to have you pick your favorite, but what have been some of the more interesting stops? 45 of 63, is that what you said?
45 of 63, that's right. So I'll tell you a cool personal story. So our Pleasantville stop was right where we were located at the press. My old third grade teacher in Union now teaches in Pleasantville.
Wow.
Go figure. So she reached out to me, a couple months after I was down here. She worked at Washington Avenue School, as you know, right down the street, press on Washington Avenue. So that was a really special moment because I haven't seen her in, maybe at least a dozen years. So that was really cool. It was also cool to, there were so many. I liked my first stop. I was in Stowe Creek in Shiloh, way in western Cumberland County. A lot different than Union, New Jersey. That was cool to be out there and just see that. And just being in different parts of the state, different corners, so many beautiful places. I was recently at Chicken or the Egg in Beach Haven. Personal favorite spot of mine when I'm down in the LBI area. So to be with the owner of Chegg, to kind of get behind the scenes tour was like kind of walking with your favorite Hollywood actor, while they're on set for a movie. So that was really cool.
Now, you mentioned hyping storms earlier.
Yeah.
And when you first started working for the press, you mentioned that when you forecast storms, you're not going to hype them and you'll just stick to the facts.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why that would be important?
Yeah, so, the social media is great, but there's also, it kind of lower or kind of, I don't know what the exact word is, but anybody can do it, right? Anybody can post whatever. I like to call them, some people I've known call them social meteorologists, that are out and about. And some people really have a true interest in weather, but even if you have a true interest in weather, you always want a meteorologist to be on your side, or somebody really experienced with the area. As far as hyping up storms, something I do in the newspaper or online when we have is like what we know about the storm. I will literally write an article like 7 things you need to know about the storm, and they are just factual. And one thing I kind of just picked up over time is you want to say what you know. There's differing styles on how people want to approach it. Some people like to show the uncertainty. Okay, like if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. I like to say what we know. So if we have a nor'easter, and I know there's coastal flooding, and that's not going to change depending on if it's 50 miles east or west, I'm going to talk about that more first until we get to, okay, what's the snow going to be? Or if we know, I'll give you an example, the January 4th, I believe it was, blizzard, knew that the coast was going to pick up more in that situation. I'll say the coast is going to pick up more. I don't know how much we're going to get yet. It's 3 days out. Too early to tell. But I will tell you that the coast is going to get more. The further west you are, the less likely you are to have major accumulating snow.
I think people appreciate that. There is uncertainty in weather and who's going to flood, how much snow you're going to get, and you be honest with them. So, and I think that's great. That's exactly
and there's differing styles. Like I said, there's definitely a true point to saying, if it goes 50 miles east, this place is going to get 6 to 12, this place is going to get 3 to 6. I find that hard to do in a video format personally. I'm not saying that's not what people can do, but that's just the way I like going about it.
And I have a follow-up question to that. we've talked about this in the past, how there are so many different platforms now to get information to people.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be more challenging or beneficial?
I mean, I think there's always pros and cons. I mean, the way I work my social media is, Facebook and Twitter kind of same boat. It's mostly weather, sprinkling other things here or there. Twitter's more of I would say Facebook is mostly professional.
Okay.
My Instagram is mostly just pictures. I'm not really talking about specific weather events. I'll try to tease things or, or drive people to the other platforms where I think you can express more in them. Twitter's kind of my in-between. I got some personal stuff in there talking about whatever, but we also have, up-to-the-minute information when need be.
So when there's, an urgency, like a storm is coming, where should people look? Your Facebook or?
I would say really, Facebook, which is, if you look up Joe Mark WX, that's where you're going to find the longer, in-depth posts or more links to what I'm writing in the press. Twitter might be, hey, Avalon picked up 2 inches in the past hour of snow, something like that. Or here's a picture of what's going outside in Morris River, something like that.
That's exactly what those platforms are designed for, though. Facebook, you can be more in-depth. Twitter, Instagram, you can't be.
Right.
Print, you're limited. So, every platform has its strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think the only thing that I've noticed, when you're watching on TV, it's live TV, so you know exactly that they're talking about in the moment. But for social media, I think people need to pay attention to the timestamp. Like, oh, this was posted 4 hours ago. It might not be up-to-date weather at this point.
Yep.
Or it could be a snowfall map from a year ago.
Exactly.
Right.
People just sharing it from...
Or they show I know there's always the alligator swimming in the road picture that pops up when there's a tropical system, a shark or whatever it is.
Right.
Those kind of things. But yeah.
So that's the only real challenge that I've seen.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no.
Yeah, again, different platforms have different strengths. And obviously, most of what I'm doing, I'm trying to write it in the press, and feeding from there. So, everything, we're trying to bring it back, of course, trying to promote. You want to reach out with people, and I get, so many people messaging me on Facebook, and that's great. I love doing that too. And there's also the, trying to get it through, the press and what we're doing. And you're right, live video is always best in a breaking weather situation. And, we try to do that. I know Dan tried to do that too, Facebook Lives. I mean, Dan's the king of Facebook Live.
Well, I was.
This
I don't know if I am anymore.
Live.
This is Facebook Live. This is great. You're right. No, this is Facebook Live. I'm talking about, for weather. So there are, unique, things that you can do with, being live.
Now, do you think the newspaper industry is changing? And, I would say very few newspapers have a meteorologist.
Yeah.
I thought, when I said I'm a meteorologist for a newspaper, people kind of do a double take.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think are the strengths of that as far as, a newspaper, seeking out meteorologists, really trying to make that local weather connection? I think it's something that, more should do. I think it's great that the press does that. What are your feelings?
I absolutely agree. I only know I can name 3 newspapers that have a meteorologist off the top of my head. There's probably more, that's all I know. I told Chris Worrell, who's our executive editor, we interviewed, I absolutely agreed with her, having a meteorologist. I think, the Press of Atlantic City and most newspapers have a built-in name to them and brand recognition that you might not even get with television sometimes. And, so you have that, and you have such a great built-in brand recognition. And, with having a meteorologist at a newspaper, you can write more in-depth stories. You have the local meteorologist opinion, especially when it comes to a place like this where coastal flooding, you can kind of dig deeper with those stories. That's an opportunity that's, I think, unique to newspapers in that respect. In addition, I feel like, when you're trying to look, I think the more, and I'm just thinking of my own personal experience, if I'm going online for news, I might be going more to a newspaper website rather than a television news site. Obviously, when I'm trying to, the Press of Atlantic City isn't on television on a regular basis. But I feel like it's a great combination of, you still, the cost of production of making videos is so much lower now.
Absolutely.
We have a green screen at the press. Do we have all the fancy equipment that someone like Dan is using? No. But, for this area, is it good? I think it's a nice blend of being able to, you already have that brand recognition there. You have a meteorologist there. I think you can do a lot of the same stuff that you can see on television in a place like this corner state. where people, do appreciate that local flair. I think it's helpful, and I think television's great too. I think there's a spot for newspaper meteorologists as well. Goes both ways.
Now, maybe you guys can both answer this, but I'm not sure if you'd have the same answer. If a major storm is on its way, is a meteorologist allowed to take off a day from work?
I think just going into it, you're just kind of built in with like this is what you want to do, right? I mean, like
so you don't have to be told, hey, you got to be here. All right, I'm committed.
I have
to
found
this.
TV stations, they make you cancel your vacation.
Okay.
Newspaper, and I got to thank Chris Worrell for this. They actually said no, you have a vacation, go away. But I will also, so they were very respectful of your personal time. Newspaper's different than TV like that. However, I think meteorologists want to be there during the storm, so they would cancel it regardless.
Yeah, I mean, if it was the storm of the century,
Right.
You're talking, if someone's going to get 20 inches of snow, I'm probably canceling my vacation because I want to be there because you don't know when the next time's going to happen.
Right.
But I've been there on Saturdays, at the press updating. Obviously during the week, I've been there from like 5:45 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. Sometimes just rolling. But when it snows and there's a good storm, I almost don't want to sleep. I kind of want to be there and check it out. It would be nice. I would say one time if it was for me to really enjoy a snowstorm, I think there would be, kind of cool. But I want to be in the moment. I want to be there. I want to be a part of it. So I would just kind of run over there, just like Dan was saying. It's something you want to do. I have no problem doing that at all.
Good question.
Now, this is an interactive show on Facebook, so if you're watching live, you can ask us questions. Do we have any?
Kristen Kaiser, regular viewer, thanks our guest.
Thanks,
and
Kristen.
says hi to everybody. Let's see. And we always get to these a little late in the show, too. Justin Bartlett, nice to have you on. Ben Murphy. Roger Cope mentions the 1978 blizzard, which I know you guys were too young for, and technically even I was too young for, although I was 2 years old, and my town in Rhode Island got the most snow of anyone in the storm. It was 55 inches of snow from a nor'easter, which is
55.
almost unheard of. And we were the little red dot with the most out of anyone. And,
That's a dream come true.
It was. So I was 2 years old.
Especially for kids, no school, right?
And that was a big flooding storm down here in South Jersey. South Jersey got like 1 to 2 feet of snow as well. And Rogers actually out in the Midwest, they had another blizzard in January of 78.
Okay.
And then there was a follow-on blizzard February of 78 that hit here. So 78 was like an epic winter, 77, 78, 79. So, there's some snow talk on here today. I think we've talked about snow more often than some people would like when it's 80-something degrees
Some people
outside.
like it, some people
But
don't.
we
It's
do
always
love
that
it.
hot topic.
Well, I do have a very important question about snow.
Yes.
Do you two find that there is more snow when people sleep with their pajamas inside out or put a spoon under their pillow?
Oh.
The spoon, yes. Pajamas, no.
Okay.
I had never heard of either until I moved to South Jersey. I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
I don't know if it's a New Jersey thing.
Maybe.
It's not a New England thing. That I could
The
tell you.
pajamas I knew of. The spoon is not as popular. The
Okay.
pajamas one I knew about for a while.
So
Yeah.
we hear it from a meteorologist. If you want it to snow, spoon under the pillow.
That's right. Spoon under the pillow.
Ben, you're on the money regarding the local weather deals. I'm to Joe.
Oh, well,
so,
thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Let's see. Carlos Arona checking in from Delaware. Nice to have you on. Kelly Arisman, hi to you. All right, let's see. So lots of hellos. Some winter talk on here
Appreciate
as
it.
well. Any other questions? We'll address. We'll give you guys a text reply.
It's not very often you have two meteorologists in one place.
Yes.
That's right.
Two meteorologists walking to a bar.
That's right. Now, see, we went a little over on time today because our timekeeper is an Eagles fan. So, he was there watching the Eagles game, but the clock
like
was
that.
kind of tilted like this, so we couldn't see it until I think it's a commercial break right now or whatever, or the game's over. So appreciate you guys checking in, and of course, it's every Sunday, 7 p.m. Irish Pub. And Joe, tell us how we can follow you and watch you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dan. So you can follow me on Facebook, Joe Mark WX. I have this stream shared. Twitter is AC Press Martucci, and then Instagram is also Joe Mark WX. So you can follow me any one of those places. Come by and say hi. Definitely appreciate it.
And the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and the Irish Pub would like to thank you for joining us
All
tonight
right.
with an Irish Pub t-shirt.
Beautiful. Maybe I'll wear it tomorrow. Check it out. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Joe, thanks so much for being
Dan,
here.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Nice
Thank
meeting
you. Thank you, Palma. Thank you.
Love the job you're doing at the press.
Thank you.
And if our forecast or what we hear is correct, you're going to be busy this winter.
It's gonna be busy winter, but looking forward to it.
We will find out. All right, thanks for being here, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great night.
Thank you.